What's going on, everybody?
Hello.
Happy Sunday.
Yeah, happy Sunday to you.
Welcome to our Kamp Krazy Check-In. I'm Joe.
I'm Rachel.
And this is Two Crazy Ketos. And here on Two Crazy Ketos, we do different things like recipe videos and we do product reviews. And we talk about various keto topics. And then every Monday, we sit down on the couch for Keto on the Couch. We just kind of talk about what's going on in our lives for the week.
You can find us on different social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And we have a website, which is twocrazyketos.com. And that's where you're going to find all of the different recipes. Now, we do upload at least 5 new videos every single week. So make sure you subscribe to our channel.
And don't forget to hit the little bell icon. And that way, every single time we upload a new video, you'll be alerted to it.
Let me pull up the chat here.
Can everybody hear us?
Everybody should be able
Hello.
to hear us. So
Happy Sunday.
I got to pull up the chat so you can just say hello to people without seeing who's on here.
Well, I saw Chris is in here. He said he almost logged into Keto Chow and he had to like switch it really quick. So hello, welcome. I also saw Shelly and Heath. I saw Heath doing the thing that reminds me of like the old was it Merwin's? What was that store where it was like open? I feel like it was Mervin's.
I don't remember.
Sherry Morgan's here. Hello. She says, thank you, or congratulations, 20,000 subscribers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
For making that possible. Elizabeth is here. Hello. Carmen's here. Shanta. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much. Because I'm paranoid. Because we've had so many times where it didn't.
Well, and then today, like, you're in a bit of a rush because, you know, we have church this morning. We come home, we got to do the live stream. And then as soon as it's over, we have to head back over to church for the groundbreaking for phase 2 of our building.
Yes, I'm so excited because phase 1 of our church becomes all of kids ministry. The kids take over the camp, so to speak, which I'm very excited about.
I'm curious to see how they're going to do that because the current sanctuary becomes 2 stories.
I know.
So you can't start working on that until the new sanctuary is done. So like kids ministry is going to be under construction for probably 6 months to a year after the new part of the building is done.
You know, you're always working on kids ministry, right? Because you get more people in, you find out more ways to engage the kids.
Right.
I love that. I'm all about like what can we do to unlock their communication, which is why we're doing this. Right. Because we got to talk about stuff, right?
Yep. Well, let's, I see pretty much Tina Marie says, I'm new here.
Well, welcome. We're glad you're here.
He said, just finished enjoying Keto Chow apple pie pancakes dusted with cinnamon.
Yum.
That sounds really delicious.
Yep, Mervin's. What was the store that it replaced? Because Mervin's was something else.
We didn't have those.
We had it here. It replaced another store. Someone will remember.
Want to see the crowd? There's our crowd.
Well, hello.
That's who's chatting right now.
Look how cool that is. Jessica's here. Hi, Jessica. Hi, Amy. Hi, Tanya.
So you want to talk about...
Yes.
Our movie.
So, of course, I pick a movie that's impossible to find.
I know.
Unless it was part of your childhood.
There's a conspiracy theory, at least.
That there's something wrong.
I think there is.
You know what it is? It is the first in the Ernest franchise. Does everybody remember Ernest?
I always felt like Ernest.
Yes. I always felt like Ernest, too. I'm glad that you said that. Because I started to say, well, if you can't find Ernest Goes to Camp, any of the Ernest movies will do because they all sort of had the same theme, and that was no matter where Ernest was, he didn't quite fit in.
Right.
I was looking at Ernest Goes to School, and it was like him and the football players. Then you have Ernest Goes to Camp, and he's like a janitor in a campground.
Right.
Every place he is, he doesn't quite fit in, and I felt like that was my childhood. Do you feel like you had that trouble growing up?
That was my childhood and my young adulthood, and like probably all the way to keto.
Yeah, I mean, well, there were times
Seriously.
when we would be in like a youth camp or you'd be in a new place. Were you that person like I was that you went into a room and you're like, I don't know where I fit in. Right. It was very challenging. I can remember up until high school, I didn't even have like a lunch table. The lunch table, I felt like I didn't fit in anywhere. And so in high school, my friend Beth, if she's in here, she'll echo this. We were in like a misfits table. We came together with a misfits table, and that was our lunch table. But I felt like Ernest growing up that I was super nerdy. I had the dad jokes even then. When you're like middle school or high schooler, they're not ready for dad jokes. Right? Like it was strange. What about you guys? I'm interested to see what you guys think. Montgomery Wards. I do think that was one of
that one we had. Phyllis said, "I'm gonna make keto chow ice cream. Can I freeze the leftovers? I don't think I can eat all of it." Okay, so it doesn't.
Send it my way. I'll finish.
It doesn't really freeze well because keto chow is mostly water, so it becomes like a block of ice.
It reminds me of ice milk.
Yeah, I think it's even beyond ice milk. It's not gonna retain that same thing. The only way you can kind of avoid that is by adding some glycerin or maybe some vodka or something to it so it doesn't freeze. But it
add
really,
vodka to your keto chow.
It really only is going to work like as a soft serve. But remember, when you make a batch, that's a meal. Just take your time and eat it. That is eating that giant thing of ice cream that it makes is no different than drinking a shake.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
Well, could you pour make the shake and use half of it in your ice cream compressor?
If you're
and
making
use the rest
it in the compressor, you could make a half a batch by taking a half a keto chow and pouring it in and making that, and then saving it later. But once you actually turn it into ice cream, it's the only thing. It's what was that?
You've inflated the balloon.
No, I'm thinking of the Jeff Foxworthy skit where he talks about Jell-O.
Really?
Right? Where he talks about Jell-O and Jell-O. So once it becomes Jell-O, it is Jell-O for life. He's like,
you can't un-Jell-O it.
Because the only way to get it to no longer be Jell-O is put it in your mouth and swish it around for a long time, and then it becomes a liquid again. Well, the ice cream, once you turn keto chow ice cream into an ice cream, you're either gonna have to eat it as ice cream or completely melt it off again and drink it as a drink.
But then it's gonna be kind of watered down.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on how you make it. So if you make it in a compressor, you can do a half. If you're making it in the blender, you'd have to make a half a batch.
Yeah, like half a scoop of keto chow.
Yeah.
Half of the ingredients.
Shauna said, "I really pray that my church will make it to the groundbreaking stage to grow."
That is awesome. Yeah, we were in, what was it? Was it 7 years as a mobile church? And let me tell you, that was hard. When we think about going...
You had to be there at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to set up.
Yeah. I mean, we had to make the walls, everything of the church every week. We were meeting in a school for one campus and in a movie theater for the other. And like making that into a safe kid rooms. Like, I do not miss the time of the mobile church.
Aaron said, "I just made your keto chow pancakes. I use banana flavor. Recipe is easy. I think it was Jerry that posted it this morning." So
awesome.
Good.
I'm glad you liked it. Have you added a little bit of nuts? We haven't done, we need to do pancakes and then have some nuts in the batter.
We can do that. Chris said, "Last night I threw a bunch of beef chuck roast into a crock pot with some garlic, salt, and onions. This morning I pulled out the beef and mixed in some beef soup base to make gravy."
Yum.
That sounds delicious.
Oh my gosh, that sounds
Carmen
so good.
said her kids loved Ernest.
So definitely my children, without even knowing Ernest, totally mastered his ew, right? Like he always had a very like strong reaction to stuff. And I was asking the kids and Joe, what is something that when you look at it from the outside, the dish looks like ew, but it tastes really good?
Every single thing that we photograph for our website.
I know. We need Lisa like really badly because she's a great photographer. But yeah, ours doesn't look that great. You know what Caleb suggested? Every time we get Chipotle, and we do the same thing because we usually get the lettuce on the bottom. You can get cauliflower rice.
You can get cauliflower rice, but it's just adding too many carbs for me.
I usually just
I'd rather have a bunch of
salad.
the fajita veggies and waste the carbs on like guacamole, because I'm not a big guacamole fan, but I do like it in my bowl. Like that.
I love guacamole, but that is definitely guacamole itself. Caleb mentioned was a food that when you look at it and it looks disgusting. It looks terrible, right? So when we bring home Chipotle, we always dump it into a bigger bowl and just mix it up, and now
it's not appetizing.
That does not look appetizing, but it tastes delicious.
Right. Shelly said, "I'm sure you guys are going to disagree, but I never liked the Ernest movies." Sorry.
Well, that's okay.
They're definitely, you have to like appreciate that. Like, I used to call them so stupid you have to laugh movies.
Yeah.
And some of them I like, and some of them don't. Like, I was never a big fan of like the Naked Gun series.
No, I know.
Like some people really like them, but then I liked the airplane movies. It just like you have to
hit you at the right time in your life too.
We were watching a movie the other day, and I'm like, they had to be high making this movie, and like
Maybe they were.
Because it was just like, some of the stuff, it was just like, I don't get it. Like,
Right.
It was, but again, it's one of those, it's so stupid, you have to laugh, but you're not laughing that the movie is funny, you're laughing that they thought it was funny enough to put into a movie.
Right. Well, and Ernest makes fun of himself so hard. And I felt like that was definitely a coping mechanism that resonated with me, because I think that I was kind of wanted to be a jokester and make things funny, and kind of like, so that you don't make fun of me, I'm gonna make fun of myself first, so that there's nothing left.
Right.
So I was definitely somebody who had a really hard time saying anything positive about myself, because I wanted to turn everything into a joke. But really,
what's changed?
I know. It's not great. It's not a great coping mechanism.
Right.
Because, you know, when you're alone with yourself, you're still talking to yourself like that.
Well, I'm just saying that you still turn everything into a joke, but now you have a better self-image and self-esteem, so.
So there's a song that you can actually pull up on YouTube that's from Ernest Goes to Camp. And it says, gee, I'm glad it's raining. Mm-hmm. And it's a song that he's singing about how I'm glad it's raining and nobody can see that really I am hurting and I'm crying. And I thought, wow, that is, I think, something that sometimes we do, right? If you had kind of a rough go of elementary, middle school, high school years, you didn't want anybody to see you vulnerable.
Right.
And I definitely carried that over into adulthood.
Yeah, there were a few comments here. Elizabeth said, I'm with you. I always felt like I didn't fit in. Carmen said, I never fit in with a clique. I was a floater.
It's really tough. And I found that something that I did in response to that feeling is I got really attached to animals and I got really attached to food. Right. Why? Because you don't find rejection with animals or food. Right? Like my animals, and you can see it carried over into adulthood. Like I always surround myself with animals. Why? Because animals love you. Right. They just love you. The problem is that I also fit in really well with food and junk food and snacks and stuff. Only they couldn't love me back. Right. There was not, like, the time that I invested in eating a bunch of garbage, like, it was a coping mechanism, but it wasn't great. Right. And it didn't love me back.
Yeah. Sherry wanted to know if ordering the Keto Chow base or their flavors. So what the Keto Chow base is, it's all the vitamins and the nutrients and electrolytes that you would have in Keto Chow without any flavoring, without any protein powder or sweetener or anything like that. And it's really made so that you can use your own protein powder of choice. Maybe you don't like milk protein isolate, or maybe you'd prefer to use stevia instead of sucralose as a sweetener. You would buy the base and then get your choice of a protein powder, and then basically make your own Keto Chow. We actually have a video coming out on that later on in the end of the week. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit that bell button so that you're notified when it comes up. But we're going to show you exactly how to take the base powder and turn it into a Keto Chow we're using a Quip protein because I like the beef protein in it. Yeah. And it does have a good flavor, so you don't have to add a bunch of sweeteners with it. And they're using stevia. Nice. Yep. Jazumba said, just got found by my high school reunion committee. I only went to that school for senior year. Can't believe they even looked for me. Definitely was an outsider.
It was tough for me. And I wasn't, like, when I first had my 10-year class reunion.
I just spilled coffee.
Oh, are you okay?
Yeah.
My 10-year class reunion, I didn't go to because I was not comfortable with the way that I looked. It was, more than 100 pounds ago. And I feel sad that I didn't just put myself out there. If I could go back and do it again, I would say just go. Right. A lot of times it was the same attitude we always had, right? Don't take pictures of yourself. Wait until you've lost the weight. Wait until you look right on the outside in order for you to engage. Don't do that. Yeah. I regret that.
Chris said we need to hire Carrie Brown to take photos of our stuff.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That would be really good.
She's amazing.
Heath wants to know, can you use the Keto Chow taco flavor and make the pancakes thinner to use as tortillas? What would the mixture be? Now, I have not made it with the taco, but that is using, if I remember right, the taco uses a beef protein. And I think they use like a similar protein to what's in a Quip. if that is the case, I know at least one of the savory, I just don't remember which ones. I want to say the beef one does. But if you use that, it should come out very thin as it is, because the pancake recipe that we have will not work with other protein powders. You'll get a pancake, but you're not going to get anything you're not going to get the fluffiness, the thickness. They come out more like crepes, and that's because of the milk protein and the xanthan gum and the acacia fiber. The way they all interact, that's what makes those pancakes come out the way they do. When you use something like a Quip, it comes out as a thin crepe. So it should work. I haven't yet tried it though. Like, so again, it'll definitely come out thinner than the regular pancakes if they have beef protein in it. Let's see.
Ooh, lemon meringue. That would be a good lemon pancakes. Yep. I don't think we've made that yet.
Chris said Napoleon Dynamite, for example, is a very divisive movie.
Yeah.
Jessica calls them stupid, funny movies. I absolutely love them. Something me and my dad share. I think Kung Pao was my favorite.
Aw, that's awesome. Yeah, that was another one where it was just like, it was so silly.
Right.
You enjoy it or you don't. I mean, airplane movies were like that too.
Yep. Amy wants to know, I got peach Zipfizz yesterday, looked at nutrition facts. I was shocked it has carbs. Can you explain what the carbs are in them? They are so tasty, and I'm drinking more water now. All Zipfizz has carbs. Pretty much anything you put in your body is going to have carbs.
Was that the one that was like a
peach mango? No, but they changed the formulation, okay. The peach mango. But they all have carbs. Now, I haven't even looked at the fruit punch. When the nutrition guidelines changed in the country, they all went from having 1 or 2 carbs to some of them have 3 or 4 carbs.
Yeah.
They didn't even change anything. It's just the way it falls out on the nutrition label. But it's coming from some of the different vitamins that they have in there, the vitamin B, the flavorings. So it's just a choice you have to make. That's why we never have more than one in a day. So we'll have one probably 3-4 times a week. And then the rest of the time we're using the Redmond Relight, or Rachel likes also the Perfect Keto one. Yeah, I like the
Perfect Keto lemon lime one.
And then we use a lot of Keto Chow Drops. Like, Keto Chow Drops pretty much goes into everything because, again, you need so many electrolytes, and there's no carbs in the Keto Chow stuff.
Yeah.
But it's the flavoring, the sweetener, all of that. I think they use the Sucralose.
Plus, with the Keto Chow Drops, you can put it right into the food that you're cooking.
Right.
And it just tastes like salt.
Yep. Dahlia said, I never had a clique group either, a bit of friends with everyone, but was a sense of belonging. I heavily identify with Drew Barrymore as Josie Grossi from Never Been Kissed.
Yes, that is definitely a movie I absolutely love. Plus, she worked for the newspaper, I was like all about the school newspaper. So, like, yeah, I totally identify with her too. And you're trying to fit in.
Right.
Did you ever... I remember you saying that you couldn't wait to buy regular store-bought tomato sauce because you thought that would fit in better.
Yeah.
Because you grew up making your own stuff.
That's coming up in one of the other movies, and that is like the Heavyweights movie.
Yeah.
Because that was something for me, and I know that comment popped up. We'll put it back up in a minute. But that was something for me. I grew up in a household where we really were not allowed outside food a lot. Like, we didn't go to the store. We didn't eat a lot of packaged food. Tomato sauce, all of that kind of stuff was always homemade.
Yeah.
And I mean, homemade is good if it's done right, but it was very watery.
Like, your mom would make it too watery.
But we didn't really go out for fast food unless we happened to be on a trip. We definitely weren't into candy bars or anything like that. So when I got off on my own, and even summer camp, when I would go away to summer camp, I would lose weight during summer camp only because I was in a Boy Scout camp in upstate New York that you had to walk up and down hills all day and mountains all day. So it was onto a scout reservation. So I lost weight because of how active I was, but I probably would have been losing a lot more if it wasn't for the fact that when I was out of the house and away from my parents' control, I ate everything I was never allowed to have.
Yeah.
And then when I went off to college, it was the same thing. It was like, okay, well, what do you mean? Oh, I have the control now. I can have a store-bought tomato sauce. I can have sugared cereal.
Yeah.
And I just went off the rails. And that's when, and even though I was heavy as a kid, I really ballooned up when I got off to college.
Right.
When I controlled that stuff more.
I did a similar thing. But I was thinking that one side effect of, I think a lot of people have unplugged from regular television, or at least you watch it in a setting where you're not watching every commercial. When we were growing up, you had to watch every single commercial.
Right.
And a lot of the commercials were food commercials geared specifically to kids.
Right.
Because you wanted to have what they were saying was a good, like the cool breakfast.
Right.
You wanted to have packed in your lunchbox what were the snacks that they were saying the cool kids were having.
Right.
And if you didn't have those things, you know, if your lunch wasn't tradable because you had those snacks that you were seeing all the cool kids have, you felt like an outsider.
Yeah. So Elizabeth said, wow, me and animals, so true. I almost didn't go to college because I couldn't have my Siamese kitty.
Aw, I totally get that.
Shelly said, I was never in a clique, but I wanted to be.
No, I never wanted
I
to
never was in, that's what I said. Oh, I never was in a clique, but I never wanted to be.
Right.
I've always been just me and independent.
I love that. I wish that I had that strength to begin with. But even if I had a tough exterior, like I'm fine, I don't need to sit by anybody, I was secretly on the inside going, please sit next to me. Like, please ask me to sit with you.
Right.
Like, I mean, and that carried over into adulthood.
So Chris said, yeah, taco, beef, and tomato all use the same beef protein as a quip, as well as the beef bone
Hydro
broth
beef.
protein. So yeah, I knew that one of them was, and I guess that's the chicken soup.
Oh, he says, I went to 3 different high schools, 4 if you count summer school. So I was always an outsider and loner. And it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember even like always having like a snack or like being, you know, someplace else. It's like, I could focus on this. Oh, I've got to go over here. Like, I don't know. There was comfort in the food.
Right. Let's see. Susan said I had my set of friends that I ate lunch with. Then I had my swim team friends. My school was fairly small. I had the same friends from elementary to high school.
Wow, that is amazing. That is really hard. Like to find that somebody has had that situation, because usually you move around.
Yeah. Elizabeth said, I'll never forget when I told my mom that I liked my sister's Kraft macaroni and cheese better than her homemade recipe, which actually was awesome to everybody else.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because, well, I mean, you definitely felt like that.
I mean,
like
my mom could have had like
sauce.
the greatest food in the world, but because like I felt like I was being deprived, like I just went off the rails. And you know, and that's something that's why, you know, even now people say, well, like, why are you okay with some of like the keto treats and stuff like that? I mean, because if you go to a lot of people, especially when they first get started on keto and say, and your mom was this way,
Mm-hmm.
and say, you're never having something sweet again. You're never going to have a cupcake again. You're never going to have a piece of cake again. You're never going to have a cookie again, or any of that kind of stuff. They're like, absolutely not.
it's too much of a challenge,
Right.
to think of that far down the line.
So when you look at it and go like, okay, there are some things now you can't abuse them, but there are some stuff out there without getting into all of the bad sugars and the wheat and all that other stuff. There are some alternatives so that on those special days you can have that. And I think that that's good because, again, I think a lot of us, like the way our brain works, when you say I can't, it makes you want it more.
Forbidden fruit is always the sweetest.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I get trying to fit in. Like, we have some kids at church we've talked about that have celiac, and we've brought them things like smart cakes to church, and just them being able to feel like they fit in.
I will never forget. Yeah. So there's
Cupcake.
this one little
It's
girl
a huge deal.
who her parents have celiac, and I think her brother has celiac, and they didn't know about her yet. But the whole family just lives completely gluten-free. And this girl was, at the time, I want to say she was like 3 years old.
Not
2 or
even.
3 years old. And so we had started keto. And so I had made keto donuts. And I brought in some for these 2 kids who, one of them has celiac and the sister just doesn't matter. She's like,
They're
she's
not
not
gonna-
getting gluten. And I brought in donuts, and I'm like, and you know, I showed obviously the mom, like, this is what's in it. And she's like, no problem. And I gave it to her, and the little girl walked around, because the way our church was at the time, there was always free donuts. Before or after every service, there was boxes of free donuts. So you would see kids walking around with donuts.
But she couldn't
But
have
she
that.
was never allowed to have one. Well, we gave her this donut. She was walking through the hallways of the school, like holding this thing up going, I have a donut.
You have a donut?
You have a donut?
I
have
have
a donut. And it was like the first time in her life where she was like, I can fit in because every other kid is having a donut and I get one too.
Well, and I just thought that that was amazing that you're already recognizing, you know, if you're 2 or 3 years old, where you fit in based on what you're eating and what other people are eating.
Right.
And I mean, we definitely have to work on our homes being a place of like, just because we eat something differently does not mean that you are better than or less than of a person. Because it was weird how she had already made that connection between food and fitting in.
Right. I saw Elizabeth had another. He said, I was never a sophomore. I failed freshman year and doubled up on several classes so I could still graduate on time.
Wow.
That is good.
I can completely believe that you would just skip a grade, Heath. You're awesome.
Elizabeth had a question. I have 2 friends who want to just dabble in keto. What do I say to them?
I wouldn't.
Go watch our step 1 video. And I tell people, here's what's the easiest way to get into keto. Step 1, throw out the sugar and the weed. Do nothing else. Just get rid of all the sugar. Stop eating all of the sugar. And even if that's too hard with them, you can do that in stages. Like spend a couple weeks and just don't eat any kind of bread or carbohydrates and then get onto the sugar. Or I would actually start with the sugar and then go into that. But let them do it slowly to just kind of start adapting. Believe me, if you're used to eating 200 or 300 grams of carbohydrates a day and you drop to even 50 or 60, those first couple weeks, you're going to see some results.
Yeah, you will.
You will see some results. It may be not as drastic as if you jump right into full-fledged keto, but you can't help it. It's like somebody who is 200 pounds overweight and they go from eating 50,000 calories in a day, which some people have done.
Yeah.
You've seen on like the 600-pound life. And all of a sudden, now they're only eating 5,000 calories, which most of us would gain weight on 5,000 calories, but they have so much weight to lose. Even dropping to 5,000, they still will lose weight.
Well, and I think that getting rid of the sugar is good for everybody's diet.
Right.
I mean, if that's a huge obstacle, just getting like regular refined sugar out of your life. And I mean, it would be great if they could do the wheat too. Like that would really do wonders for them. What I would say is I wouldn't be like 1 foot in, 1 foot out with a lot of like eating back and forth, because what I've seen is a lot of people, you're constantly putting yourself through a state of like that keto flu time.
No, you can't do in and out. You have to, if you want to wean yourself in, you can wean yourself in, but you can't like, you know, people who, especially early on, like you see people who 6 months in are like, I'm going to do cyclical keto where I'm going to do keto 5 days a week and not keto 2 days a week. That's not going to work.
You're going to make yourself feel really yucky.
But if you're trying to get yourself in and you're not ready to dive right in, which I always say baptism by fire is the best way. Right. But just to slowly work the stuff out. But once you get it out, don't put it back in.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh, so
he said it was rough. My best 3 classes were lunch, shop, and history. I absolutely hated homework. Would I want to take that at home?
Well, I can remember, like, was it Anthony that was saying one time, like, you know, why are we responsible for the teacher's job? Like, if she can't finish getting across everything she needs to during the day, then, like, why do we have to take it home? And I was remember just like, geez, Anthony.
When Anthony started virtual school and they're like, there's really no homework. And he was like, yes. And I'm like, yeah, but that's because the work that you are doing at home already is very difficult.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a way to like reinforce what you're learning.
I like what my mom had said, because she's watching my nephew right now and he's 8 years old, and he said, who cares if you don't fit in? Just be yourself.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, I want the kids that we get to minister to have that thought.
Right.
That it's not about like trying, you know, doing outside things in an effort to fit in, but to be yourself. That's super important.
Dahlia said, Rachel, thank you for creating environments where you can talk openly about growing up as a bit of a misfit. You have a lot of courage to say out loud things that I've never admitted out loud.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for like being vulnerable here in this space, because I know sometimes it's hard, you know, to talk about stuff, but I feel like if we don't, we're going to keep making the same like errors.
Right.
Because I think about like how many times I comforted myself with food, and it was a coping mechanism in the past. Mm-hmm. But I can't get in a time machine and go back and stop past Rachel from
Right.
using that as a coping mechanism, but I can stop me right now.
Right.
Like what I used to do behaviorally, I don't want to continue doing.
Right.
I don't want to, if I come to a place and I feel like I don't fit in, I don't need to retreat, make fun of myself, go eat something, or find a four-legged furry animal.
Right.
I can just be in the moment and be okay.
And that's why this is something we're trying to talk about more of is the emotional side of our eating issues and carb addiction and all that stuff. Because I think a lot of times we jump into keto or any eating lifestyle and think that slashing calories or counting points or cutting out carbohydrates,
eating the right
that's
food,
gonna fix everything. But if we don't deal with the emotional side, then like it's gonna be like a Band-Aid. And I mean, even if you look at people who've gone and gotten gastric bypass surgery and stuff, usually you have to go through a bunch of counseling. You have to figure out what got you where you are, because I can go and staple your stomach and tie everything up and make your stomach the size of a pea, but if you don't deal with what you were doing and why were you eating so many calories, because we're not just eating those calories to feel full, we're eating it for emotion.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna just expand your stomach back out. And it's the same thing here. Like keto is not a fix-all for everything. It's a great way of eating. It's a healthy way of eating. It's definitely gonna help a lot of medical issues, but you can still gain weight on keto and you can still overeat on keto. So we have to deal with those emotional issues.
Yeah. What was our relationship with food? Because you can also go in the other side, and I've seen people that are absolutely petrified to eat.
Yeah.
Like they're afraid to even like change up what they're eating. They're like, okay. And I was in that space pre-keto when I was in such calorie restriction. But I had found the meal, where it was basically oatmeal, that I could fill my stomach up with because I was afraid to eat anything else.
Right.
And I don't want us to be the pendulum swinging that way.
Right.
I don't want to be overeating and treating all of my problems with food. I also don't want to be so frightened of food that we never eat.
Right.
Because of past relationships.
The extreme in anything is not good. In fact, I was just watching a video with Nisha Berry and she was talking about like just the extremes, and in the video she's made a good point, and I definitely see it. And she's like, the keto community is becoming almost like the vegan community.
Yeah.
And it's like, how I'm this much better than you because I don't have this. Like you had keto and then it became dirty keto or lazy keto, and then it's like, okay, well, what's better than dirty keto? Well, lazy keto. What's better than lazy keto? Oh, strict keto. Well, you know what? Strict keto, that's not strict enough. So I'm gonna go ketovore. Oh, wait, you know what? I want to be better than you, so I'm going to go carnivore. And now all of a sudden you have this infighting, and you see it inside of a lot of the Facebook groups. Like, oh, no, you're not really keto if you had some sunflower oil. Like, and it's just like, the bottom line is what works for you.
Yeah.
And we need to just look at the emotional side of things and do what works for you.
Well, and we get to be that friend. You get to be that friend to somebody that maybe you wanted. Like in the past, if you were one of those people that felt like I didn't have a friend, or it was very hard for me to fit in, it was hard for me to connect with people, I want to be that person that somebody else that's hurting can connect with.
Right.
And that's kind of like what I would like to replace as a coping mechanism, right? Instead of being like, gosh, I'm so like inward minded, if we could get our minds on other people and helping them and being that encouragement to them, because I think even as adults, we're all looking for a lunch table to sit at. And I'm glad that you're here at our lunch table.
Yeah.
And the more, let's just add more chairs instead of trying to be like, how can we weed people out by saying, well, they're different from me in this like one little thing, like whether or not they eat broccoli or if they're okay with cheese. Like, instead, let's have more seats at the table, more encouragement.
Yeah. Debbie said, happy Sunday afternoon. I'm tuning in while I'm on the road. I just dropped my son off at
Debbie.
the airport to spend part of the summer with his bestie in Utah.
How awesome is that?
We're going to Utah in a month.
You're going to get to see your bestie. I love it.
He said, I heard someone explain that the current school system was set up for people entering the workforce during the Industrial Revolution and now needs to be revamped to our current times.
I definitely think we are seeing a lot of changes, at least down here. We're seeing a lot more things where they're trying to plug people into careers they may be interested in, instead of it just being like one size fits all. You know, different people learn differently. I know that you, for instance, you love hands-on stuff versus I need to be like, listen to it and read it.
I do not learn by reading. I learn by doing. Like, I have no idea really how to work on a car. However, if somebody is willing to give me a car engine and said, take it apart and do what you want,
then you can do
I will be able to take it apart, learn everything that engine does, and be able to put it back together. That's how I learn.
But you want to reach both of us.
I learn by doing, right.
Each person.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why we try to do different things with our videos that way. That's why, like, I will try to write things out or explain things. Like, YouTube for me was the greatest thing because now I can see somebody do it. Shauna said, now they just give them the surgery. It seems it's to be all about money. Sad, some doctors just offer surgery like it is a cookie.
But
they're not all that way. I'm glad about that.
But I have met 5 different people that are like in the top of my mind that gained their weight back after the surgery. And we had talked about like whether or not that they had therapy, and in those 5 instances, they had fast tracked the surgery and just got them right to surgery without having that conversation about it.
I know that last year when I went up and I had an office visit with Dr. Silas, and boy, if you want a rude awakening.
But in a good way.
But I mean, it was great. I mean, he was like, yeah, we're going to talk about why were you fat your whole life.
Yeah.
And, you know, and really getting into like the emotional side of it. And I thought that was great. And I mean, he does offer like teleconferences and stuff like that.
Yeah. Robert Silas.
Yep. Adalia said it's hard to, is absolutely difficult to eat. And that's why people talk about like, hey, you know what? Keto chow doesn't fill me up. Add some more protein to it.
Yeah.
Add some more protein. Like you can add some gelatin to it. You can maybe have a can of chicken on the side, but just eat some really lean protein along with it. And that'll definitely fill you up.
Well, and that's the thing. If you, what's on your plate, eat all of your protein first. And then get to if you have like some vegetables or something on there, and you'll see it fills you up.
Looks like we are buffering.
Uh-oh.
I don't know. We'll have to watch it. Let's see. Susan said, fixing what is going on in our minds is the challenge. It is a process to change our mindset.
Yeah, it really, in all different aspects, right? It's hard to change your mindset with food and your relationship with food. It has been very challenging to change my relationship with exercise. I did not realize how much of a stigma I had placed on movement. Instead of celebrating it, it was always a chore. It was the same as like telling me, you need to go work out and you need to go do the laundry later. And it's like, oh, I don't want to do either of those things. Instead of being excited about it.
Yep. Chris said, your eating choices are inferior to mine, and you are a bad person. Kneel before Zod, I guess.
Seriously, it's so silly for us to be arguing over that.
Yep.
You know?
Older Pennsylvania said, I was angry when I saw an endocrinologist notes that I was morbidly obese due to consumption of excess calories. Meanwhile, she did not know I was on a restriction since 8 years old. She didn't even ask.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have on Keto on the Couch where you have like the pictures that someone had put of like everybody's wearing the same, but it's like you can tell the body shapes are all differently. Yeah, like when you're only judging from the outside look of things, it's very frustrating.
Jessica said, what upsets me most about the community is when the conversation turns to parent shaming and berating folks about what their kids eat. Talking about people's kids is just not nice.
No, and we have to understand that it's hard to be a parent. It is really hard. I look back and we made so many mistakes when our kids were little.
Yep.
That when I see any parent say, okay, I'm going to have this snack that doesn't have any sugar in it, I just want to like throw them a party.
Right.
Because I know that that's hard.
Right.
It's very challenging. Plus, the kids are very verbal. So they will tell you, I don't want to eat this. I don't want to have this. When you have play dates, you have to be monitoring that and like what is, allowable. I mean, it is so challenging to be a parent. We need to love these parents. They are really having like a tough time.
Yeah. Maine, North Carolina Fed said, thank you for talking about all the feelings when you're trying to get healthy while eating keto. It is encouraging.
I'm glad. Thanks for talking about it with us.
Shauna said, I agree that there are people in every group I've been in that there is their opinion of what is and not keto is the delivery for me.
Yeah.
And then the problem is it's very hard to get like intent and what their delivery is when you're reading a message, right? When you're reading a text message.
You can't read the tone.
Right. You have no idea of like how were they saying it as a joke. And I had somebody comment on one of our camping videos and I'm like, I don't get it. Like,
right. I don't understand.
I don't
what
understand
your tone
are you trying to make fun of us, be
Should
nasty, or are you trying to be funny? I can't figure it out.
Yeah. So it's that can be challenging too. And if you have, again, I feel like we cannot be the only people that have been morbidly obese for more than 30 years,
right,
and not already have like a defense mechanism. Like I'm already like on the defensive because of the life that I've lived for this long, where
right,
you're always thinking that somebody is looking to exclude you.
Right.
And so when you finally put yourself out there into a group or community, you're like suspicious.
Right.
More so than I think other people are coming from a different background than we are.
Adalia said it shows up in groups, but thankfully not as much in the 2KK or the Keto Chow Facebook groups. That's because we have some incredible
you guys
moderators
are amazing
who
too.
are really on top of stuff, and we're we may not comment as much because just of our time, restraints, but we read everything.
Yeah.
We are in there constantly. I mean, even because down to like when I do keto on the couch, I go through all of the comments again for the whole week. So what I end up doing is backlogging all the way back to the previous Saturday and literally read every single comment, even if I've already seen them. And if I was smart, I would just notate them during the week when I see them, but I'm not that smart. So
smart, baby.
We see them all the time, and so whenever something pops up, it's immediately dealt with.
But I feel like you guys do such an incredible job of posting things in these different Facebook groups that is like, what would I want to hear if I was new? You're so welcoming. Mm-hmm. The things that you say are so uplifting. It's like, it just cheers you on for the week, and we need that.
Lisa said, was moving the lawn, but our mower knocked out, so now I only have a half a lawn load, and it's going to rain for the next few days.
Oh, no. And they used to have, like, the half-cut, half-high lawn. We've had that.
Susan said, one of the gals I went on vacation with had surgery, but won't give up her regular Coke and sugary adult beverages. It was so sad and hard to watch.
It is.
And sometimes it just comes down to, like, unfortunately, you have to hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
And I know we both went through that. I mean, for me, what really got me going was finally like being challenged by like my son and a pastor and everything else. Rachel one day just got so sick and she was just like, okay, like this is it. Like I'm at bottom, and didn't get out of a bathtub for 4 days.
That was
literally sat in a bathtub for 4 days.
Yeah. And that's how I turned the corner and like made my decision. When people are saying like, I want to make sure that you guys know that I know it's not easy. The decision that you have made to go keto and the decisions you make every single time you sit down to eat, like I know that is tough.
Right.
I am really proud of you because I know that is hard. It is hard to go out to eat with your friends who are not keto. It is hard sometimes to show up to family gatherings and your family is not keto. It is challenging, and you're doing a great job sticking to this, but I know it's not easy to do.
Yeah, and you just have to find your ways around it. Like, so our church is actually launching another campus. We're taking over another old building. And so our staff meeting gets to be at this new building so we can see it. And they said, it's going to be catered for all of staff, Italian food.
And you're like, I bet we won't be able to eat.
We can't have that. So what are we going to do? So what is our solution? Because we're not going to get to eat when everybody else is eating. We're making beef ribs on the smoker. And we will go there filled up on delicious beef. So we won't feel deprived. So we may not be able to have it in the moment there, but we're going to treat ourselves with something that, in my opinion, is better than having Italian food.
Well, and I know that I have a community.
Right.
And we will definitely go in before we go to our staff meeting. I will go in. I want to see what you guys are doing. I want to talk to you. I feel the encouragement that you give every person that goes into the Facebook group. I read the comments that you guys have cheering on one another on YouTube videos. And I think, okay, I'm not alone.
Right.
Because I think that that gives you the courage to stick to your plan too. Because Joe and I know that even if we leave our house and go out with people who are not keto, we're not alone.
Right.
We're not alone in our keto journey because we have you guys.
Yep. Carmen said sustained weight loss is mostly a mental thing, I believe. If you don't address your baggage, it's not going to stick. My weight gain is a testament to that. Not defeated, but feel slightly loserish. Definitely know what you're going through, been there, and it's true. I mean, a lot of people say, like, how can you fast? Like, we're right now in the middle of a 5-day fast, and people say, like, how do you fast? It's 90% mental.
Yeah.
It's night, and Rachel and I were driving yesterday, going, hey, you know what? Why are we doing this? And she's like, oh, I want to eat, and she's like, I'm hungry. And I'm like, she's like, are you hungry? I'm like, I'm not hungry. I just want to eat. I'm not hungry. I don't feel like my stomach going, you need to eat. I just want to eat. I want to chew on something. I want to taste something.
But it's like with any challenge that we do, it's always mental. When we go to work out, it's mental.
Right.
I have to get past Rachel, who for years was like, movement doesn't have there's no necessity for it in my life.
Yep.
I have to get past that.
Mommy said, thank you for making it okay to just move. I was hard on myself if I didn't work out for hours. I couldn't do a lot if I did nothing at all.
Well, that's really true. And whatever it is, that's what I hope that you will take away from all of our movement challenges is that you will find something you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
If that is disc golf or that is canoeing or that is paddleboarding or if that's hiking, whatever it is, just enjoy the abilities that you have that maybe you didn't have pre-keto.
Right. He said, Joe, you are a fart smeller. Oops, I meant smart fella.
A fart smeller. A smart feller. A lawn mullet. That's true. If it's short. Okay, so we haven't had it in the front yard where it's like half cut. Usually it's like the front will be cut and the back is long because that's when the mower poops out. Mm-hmm. Whether front yard or back.
Susan said we all need to customize our keto lifestyle. I've never been keto. I've been keto for over a year and seeing great results. I also eat 35 to 45 net carbs and test my blood glucose and ketones daily.
Yeah, it's really finding the groove for yourself.
Yeah.
And it is different between a husband and wife living in the same house. Like it's very different.
I mean, and you even see it like, I look at like meters, like the Keto Mojo or the Keto Coach, and while I think they're great tools, it has spawned this thing of I'm better than you.
Right.
And you see in a lot of the Facebook groups like, well, let's see your numbers. And it's like, I'm 0.5, I'm 0.8, I'm 3.2. I'm so much better than you.
I'm 72.5.
Those numbers mean nothing. As a matter of fact, like I'm of the opinion that a higher ketone could actually inhibit weight loss because that generally means you're eating probably either way too much fat or you're way under eating, one or the other. But so long as you're not eating carbohydrates and you're losing fat, who cares what the numbers are? And, when you look at people who are talking about, well, keto was supposed to be like 85 to 90% calories from fat. That's when keto was used for epilepsy, when you needed really, really high ketones. That had nothing to do with weight loss. Nothing to do with it.
Well, and I don't think that anybody who's developed a meter of any sort is like, I hope that you use this data to like lord it over someone else's head.
Right. Chris said, nah, you should bring the beef ribs and make everybody else super jealous.
Right.
Pasta versus ribs.
That's not even fair. That's not even a competition.
Adalia said, you can't make people make changes before they're ready. I've been talking to my assistant about keto for 2 years. She asked me for keto chow samples for her appendix cancer surgery recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it took us a while with Rachel's mom. I think it took, 2 years for your brother?
Yeah.
So some people, it just takes longer.
And honestly,
it took you 6 months.
It took me 6 months and I was living with Joe. But I think that it also, takes me seeing results on you long term. Because if I think that this is just a fad diet, or if I've seen, magazine articles, or I've seen like doctor shows where they're saying like keto is a fad diet, and I see you on keto, I'm gonna need to see long-standing results in your body before I start, making that decision for myself. So sometimes you are the living testimony that this actually works and isn't just something to get you into a bathing suit and then gain all the weight back,
right?
2 months later.
Easy said, I've always faced my food alone. It was not until watching your videos and Chris and Miriam videos that I realized there is help. You all are great.
Wow. Thank you for being a part of our community. And just continue to pay that forward and let other people know they're not alone. Because the more information that we get out there, the more that we encourage one another, the more that we can help people make that decision too. Sometimes just knowing I can lay down the food, I don't need that coping mechanism. I can make different choices because I will find friendships and I will find a safe community.
Right. And we were talking about this with our Patreons last night because, when we started this channel, it was kind of a joke. It really was. It was like, hey, we're about to be empty nesters. What do you want to do? Let's start a YouTube channel.
So we can talk about something besides our children.
Yeah, because people kept asking us, how are you losing all the weight? And we kind of got tired of, we just want to be like, you know what? I'm tired of telling you because you're not going to listen to me anyway. Go watch this video. And then when we went to KetoCon 2 years ago and we started meeting people and realizing wow, no, now we have a focus and we have a drive. And then we met Chris and Miriam and seeing how much they cared about people and got to hang out with Autumn from Watch Autumn Keto and saw how much she cares about people. And, talking to Robert Sykes and Logan Delgado, Goody Beats, and just meeting some of these people going these aren't people who are trying to make money or become famous. These are people who really care and will do whatever they can do within their power to help.
Yeah.
And that's what really was the drive. And you guys are as much of a drive for us staying keto, keeping up our health, not for the sake of the channel, just because
we have a community that cares.
We have a community that cares. And so when we go through in our own lives these times of this stinks. Why am I up 5 pounds? I don't understand what's going on. All I have to do is go into our Facebook group and somebody in that group is picking me back up. And so thank you for that because you're as important to us, as you think we are for you.
Yeah, you really do. You make such a huge difference. And in the lives of others, you don't realize when you're sharing something, somebody is looking at that as a goal. People have shared the first dance at their daughter's wedding. Mm-hmm. People have shared, getting not having to do surgery, getting off of medication. Every single thing that you share that's a win, that is somebody's goal.
Yeah.
And they're thinking now it's possible for them.
So Lisa had said she doesn't check her ketones very often, but she cares about her blood sugar to keep myself in check and see what kinds of foods spike me and other factors. And I think that is a much better way to do it, just so long as people understand that your glucose is going to go up. We're in the middle of a 5-day fast. Rachel checked herself yesterday and her glucose was 110. Well, how's that possible?
Right.
The day before it was 80. She didn't eat anything. How did it go up? It goes up. It's going to go up and down. Your body's going to create glucose when it needs it. If your glucose spikes from 90 to 140 when you work out but didn't eat, does that mean you shouldn't work out anymore?
I don't think so. I would love to use that as an excuse, but no.
So, and then, it's just a matter of keeping in touch with things and realizing that these meters, they're not super accurate. They have an accuracy of plus or minus 20 points. Well, that is huge.
You don't have a 20%. It's okay for you to mess up.
Fail, right?
Yeah.
He said the married couple comment is so true. Shelly and I have different approaches. She has a coach that tracks everything, and I track nothing.
Yeah, but you have to have what works for you. And the worst thing in the world that I can do is tie Joe's hands by saying you have to do this like I do it. Mm-hmm. That would really be detrimental to you.
Yeah.
So I think that the most that we can offer as far as love to another human being is allowing them to have their keto journey the way they need it to be and us support them.
Right. He's, no, I read that one. Carmen said, Keto Road just did a series about fat burning versus high ketones, even used a Lumen device in his process. I want to get my hands on that. From what I understand, basically all the Lumen device is, it's a breath ketone meter.
And it's telling you
with
whether
like
or not
a little extra software. Breath ketone meters are, I like them, okay? But you have to use a good one. Okay, and there's only 2 or 3 really good ones out there.
And you have to breathe properly.
And you have to do it correctly. Most people do not know how to use a breath ketone meter. It is
hard. It hurts.
So a breath ketone meter is measuring acetone, okay, which is a byproduct of ketosis, and it actually is a byproduct of you burning fat. So if you have the acetone in your lungs, it means you're burning fat. Problem is the acetone is all the way in the bottom of your lungs. So when you breathe into a breath meter, if you just kind of blow into it with the air that's in the top of your lungs, you're not going to get much of a reading. You have to exhale all of the air in your lungs, and then without inhaling, the last breath that's in your lungs, that's what's going to go into the device. So it's difficult to get a proper reading, but that will actually tell you if you're fat burning more than using a blood glucose monitor. The problem is, again, expensive and also very difficult to use if you don't know what you're doing.
There's a lot of user error that can go into it, and the only way that I can explain it is when we used to have
a couple of videos on them.
Choir practice, and you would have to really get out of your diaphragm, all of the air. But
it's like that very last bit. That's the part that you have to breathe into that meter.
Right.
Timbo said coconut milk has sweetness in it. Is it keto? Yeah, there's no such thing as a keto food. And I know we say it all the time, but there's no such thing as a keto food. There are keto friendly foods. And everybody's body is different. Some people, like sucralose, is 0 in the glycemic index and should not affect you. But some people it does. Stevia affects some people. Erythritol affects some people. Everybody reacts differently to different foods. So it's just like some people can have nuts and some people can't.
Some people don't get the heavy whipping cream, baby, I get when I have heavy whipping cream.
Some people can do perfectly fine on 50 net carbs. There's other people who can barely stay in ketosis if they're eating 20 total carbs. It really comes down to your metabolism, how much have you screwed it up over the years.
Screwed it royally.
So the best advice I can give you is you are your own guinea pig, and you have to be willing to try things and know it may not work and you may have a slight setback, and you can't do it for a day. When you do these trials, you have to do it for like a week at least, because like overnight means nothing. Like you could have a 3-pound weight gain from water because you ate too much salt on your ribs. So you really have to do it for a week and see. But coconut milk is great. There is a little bit of carbs in there. There is some sugar. A little hack to coconut milk would be to put it in your refrigerator, and you're going to have the liquid separate from the solids, and then dump out the liquid and only use the solid part, because the liquid is where all the sugars are going to be.
Yeah, just a little coconut milk hack.
Lisa said, I have to track. It just helps me keep myself in check. It makes sense. Plus, both James and I love the numbers and information we get from tracking.
See? So, like, if you enjoy it, then I think that is awesome. And then for other people, if they get too fixated on numbers, then it stresses them out and they go rogue the other way. So it's like, but isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
That everybody is different.
Mommy said, being a part of this family has helped me want to stay on keto, and it helps me feeling like participating in movement challenges. That's good. I will say, as her son-in-law, okay, when she got on keto, you talk about a fight that I didn't know if Rachel was going to continue talking to her mother, and I didn't know if we were going to stay married, because the fights that we had with her to get her to be on keto because we loved her and we cared about her health, and she'd be like, can I have this? I'm like, no, you can't have it ever again.
The only person that I've been willing to
have the fight with.
But
what I will say is that over the last 2.5 years or 3 years that she's been doing keto, there were always these times where I'm like, yeah, she's going to go off. She's not going to stay on this long term. She got to her weight, and I can see her wanting to have some of the sweets, especially when she's one of the greatest grandmothers you're ever going to meet.
She really
is. And she loves to spoil her grandchildren, and she's a Southern woman who's a food pusher.
Right.
So like, she wants to take the grandkids and give them all the cool things. And to see her transition mostly because of our Facebook family is amazing to see that, like, yeah, not only am I never wanting that stuff again, but like I'm not giving it to my grandchildren either.
Well, and just seeing her switch as far as like her like rewards.
Yeah.
And we've seen it, you know, in our own lives as well. Like we were, you know, I've moved over to like a treasure box at church, whereas we would have had like all the sweets going on. And it's exciting to see that there's a new way of thinking.
But we couldn't have done that to her. That was all because of you guys.
That was the family group.
Denise said, by the way, yesterday's Zoom, my hubby says I'm a micro organizer. I just have too much stuff. Time to Marie Kondo my space again.
Oh man, yes. I was talking to somebody else, like if they were an organizer or not, and it's challenging.
I want to be organized. I'm just not.
There's some things that I'm super organized about, and then other things I'm super messy about. I need to clean my act up.
So Timbo said sucralose is bad. Not necessarily. So sucralose itself, not bad. What is bad is powdered Splenda, which has sucralose in it. Because what they do is they're actually taking sucralose and then, which is a tiny, tiny amount. Like I cannot even explain to you how tiny it is. I mean, it's like the size of this pen tip.
Yeah.
Okay.
Teeny tiny.
And then they're adding a bunch of dextrose and maltodextrin so that they can basically measure it cup for cup like sugar. You could not do that with sucralose. Even like I use liquid sucralose in the house sometimes. And I remember when I first brought it and Rachel was using it like stevia, just like, psh, and I'm like, don't do that. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, one drop, like literally one drop. And she didn't believe me. And then she put like 10 drops and she's like, I can't have that.
I thought I was going to explode.
So it's like one drop is like equal to a teaspoon of sugar, like one little drop. And that even there isn't pure. It's mixed with water.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing.
Sucralose itself is not bad. It's the Splenda where they're mixing it with dextrose and stuff.
Vintage girls.
Lisa said, I use liquid stevia and it doesn't spike me, but Zevia sodas do. So weird. Could be the natural flavors. Because there's nothing natural about natural flavors. Vintage Girl said, Evelyn and her baby Tabitha are jumping up and shouting, hi, Uncle Joe and Auntie Rachel. Hope you guys like the pic. She said, can I pet the dog? Can I pet the dog? Where's the dog?
Congratulations and congratulations. I think she's out of kindergarten now. Isn't that true? Was it kindergarten or preschool? I think it was kindergarten, but like so exciting. And she actually got a Labrador named Tabitha.
Okay, so Timbo's going on about sucralose. So we don't have an issue with sucralose. A lot of people don't. And so that's one of the things that we talk about where we don't judge people because you may not want an artificial sweetener, but there's plenty of people who are okay with that. And it comes down to what works for you. Like Lisa just said, stevia is fine for her. That is an all-natural sweetener, but she can't have Zevia, which is sweetened with stevia. So everybody is different. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Chris. Well, Chris already took care of it. He removed the person from the channel. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, Chris said, Splenda contains 12 milligrams of sucralose and 988 milligrams of maltodextrin per 1,000 milligrams.
Is that crazy?
And maltodextrin is worse than sugar.
Isn't that insane, though? But, I mean, unless you just knew that fact, you would be using Splenda thinking, like, it's fine.
Read a couple comments, because we're going to have to get off so we can get to church, but I want to grab something real quick.
Am I able to move up? Oh, yeah. Look at that. Lisa says, oh, Rachel, I had one of your moments and decided to go to Goodwill yesterday because I needed some summer clothes. I found just a few deals, but got a few things. That is awesome. Yeah, I actually went into my thrift store yesterday because yesterday is like their half off day. And I didn't find anything, and I thought, what is going on that I found nothing today? Like, that was insane. I've never gone into the thrift store and not found anything. Let me scroll up. Shanta says, the tracking can be overwhelming because it just is like the scale for me, stressful at times. Yeah, I was actually talking to Anthony's girlfriend, Sarah, and she was mentioning the same thing, that she's like, I have to be really careful about the data that I collect on myself, because if I scrutinize that data too much, then I really get hard on myself. So like, yeah, I definitely think that it's something that is a person by person case basis.
So I wanted to just give an example. People talk about sucralose. So this is monk fruit. This is powdered monk fruit, okay? Which is only 30% monk fruit. And to give you an idea, this isn't as strong as like sucralose.
Not as strong.
This is not nearly, this much is not nearly as sweet as sucralose, but that little tiny bit, and I don't even think you can, I mean, to give you an idea, here's a pen. So that little tiny bit, that there is equal to a cup of sugar.
A cup.
That is a cup of sugar. So obviously you couldn't use this. This is why when you look at like Lakanto, the monk fruit, when you buy it they can't give you powdered this and say, make this in a recipe. So they take this and then they mix it with a bunch of erythritol. Well, it's the same thing with sucralose. So sucralose, it would like literally be like half of that.
Yeah.
Like that's about how much sucralose you would need. And
for
to be a
sugar.
cup of it. So they have to measure it out, mix it with something. So what do they mix it with? Maltodextrin and dextrose. Yeah. So I mean it's kind of scary. So when you think about, even if you're having like, I mean, I can't even explain it. Like this much sucralose, that's not affecting you. It's not. When you look at those studies on, we did all these studies, the amount of sucralose they were giving to those animals, I mean, Chris has got an article on it, like the amount of, I think it's like you have to drink like 60 keto chows in a day to have the amount of sucralose they were having.
Is anybody drinking 60 keto chows a day?
So Rana said, no problem with sucralose. Chalk Zero affects me, but doesn't affect others. Yeah, everybody is different. Blaine said, so sorry I missed out on the Zoom call yesterday.
Oh, me too, Blaine.
Yeah, I have a link for it. Somebody said it's not the complete link, so I have to go in and check it out. Chris said, it's like I didn't earlier say, your eating choices are inferior to mine, and you're a bad person. Kneel before Zod, I guess.
It's true. It's so true.
Okay, we'll do a couple more, and then we're going to get off so we can go to church. Yes. Rhonda said, my girlfriend just found out it affects her big time. She's a Chalk Zero-aholic. She's so upset, still has it sparingly. And again, that we did the same thing. When we tested our glucose, it didn't skyrocket, but it said enough to me to be like, I'm not going to have this in the middle of the day when I'm not eating. Maybe, okay, that time of the month, and Rachel goes, I want a piece of chocolate.
Give me a chocolate, or I'm going to hurt you.
With dinner. But you can't have a piece of chocolate at 10 o'clock in the morning as your meal, because we know it's going to maybe raise your glucose 10 or 20 points. So, like, I'm okay with it during a meal. And I know we have found, as well as I know that Kim Howerton found, that it affects her less when she's eating something with it. When she takes it on her own, she sees like a small glucose jump. But when she does it like with a meal, she sees almost nothing. Yeah. So again, it comes down to testing yourself and what are you okay with. Let's see. Any more here? Yep, there we go. Chris said that much pure glucose would not affect blood sugar in any measurable way. Yeah. Karen said Chalk Zero spikes my blood sugar, so I don't eat it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we loved it, but we were noticing a problem.
Lynette said, I wish I could do 60 keto chows a day.
Right? That would be a delicious day. Can you imagine how much ice cream that would make? A bathtub full.
Okay, so we are going to get off because we're going to go to the groundbreaking.
Yes.
I have to finish editing Keto on the couch.
I'm so excited. Yeah. New things are happening. Yep. Right?
Everything.
Like, I love that. And here is the same thing. Like, good things are happening. And we're going to continue taking more ground as far as moving our bodies, eating good food that we enjoy, and also laying down some of the things that maybe we used as a coping mechanism in the past, because we're not the same people that we used to be.
That's right. So
we have a family.
Make sure you join us for the Keto on the Couch premiere tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, right before this live stream, we did upload a review video on it's like Simple Human cookies or something like that.
But we totally disagreed.
We disagreed on it.
We had a disagreement.
So it's interesting to see our disagreement on it. Found them at Whole Foods, and Sprouts has them as well. But it was interesting, so go check that out. We will see everybody tomorrow on the premiere, and then again on Thursday for our regular live stream. Oh wait, are we doing another live stream between now and then?
We will have another live stream.
We don't know when though. What's the next movie?
Oh, if you would have asked me, I think it's Camp Nowhere.
Oh, okay, that's a good movie.
I'm not certain.
Anything with Christopher Lloyd, good movie.
Right. We love you guys.
Everybody have a great weekend. We love everybody. Bye.